This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there we are. We're ready to talk a little basketball after a terrific weekend. See, you're just a nervous Nelly. You're worried about the Nets. You're worried about the Sixers. And I'm telling you, you don't have to worry about them. When they get 100, Miami will get 100. They'll add an Oladipo like they will tonight. No concerns, Ira. The Heat will take care of business against the Nets and the Sixers.
But you know what, Big O, as I also wrote about this, as much as it was, it was hell week and they came through with a hell of a week at 3-1, there's still bigger games against three of those teams coming up for this reason. When they played the Bulls, they played them without Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. When the Heat make the final road trip of the season to Chicago, those two will be back. They played the Nets without Kyrie Irving because of the vaccine mandate, because Ben Simmons, because he's not ready. In 2 weeks from now, on a Saturday at FTX Arena, those two will be back. They played Philadelphia without James Harden. 2 weeks from today in Philadelphia, Harden likely will be back. It won't be a back-to-back. So as much as they aced their tests with 3-1 with a 1-point loss in Milwaukee.
And they weren't 100% either, by the way.
And you're right. You know what? But I'm always of the thought.
All right. Because if we're gonna give them the excuse, we had it too, by the way.
I'm not about excuses. That's why I didn't mention Kyle Lowry being out for all three of those games, because the Heat have pushed through that all season. My point being, we didn't see the true Bulls. We didn't see the true Sixers. We didn't see the true Nets, even if they didn't see the true Heat. And that's what leaves this thing sort of so jumbled. You still don't know, Big O. You still don't know the actual matchups. What I like about it is this. They secured the tiebreaker against the Bulls. They improved their chances of the tiebreaker against the 76ers. And while they finished 2-2 against the Bucks, they have the next level tiebreaker in conference record. So those were all big games. This week you have more of a Western Conference schedule. You have the Rockets tonight. You have the Suns. You have the Timberwolves coming up. Those don't mean as much. They're not tiebreaker games. Would not be surprised to see the Heat rest some people again. They know what's at stake and they know what's not at stake.
So we watched the win against the Sixers the other night, 99-92 on Saturday night. So let's hammer away a problem that we've been talking about for a long time.
Sure.
So Gabe Vincent, 29 minutes. Strus, 27 minutes. Caleb Martin, 21 minutes. Duncan Robinson, 18 minutes. And he didn't shoot poorly, didn't shoot much,
right?
But didn't shoot poorly. So I have to point that out. But is there something going on? Talk to me.
What's going on is that Eric Spoelstra has always had one starter where the leash was limited. I always make the Luke Babbitt joke. You and I go back. We know that. But over the years, this is an NBA trend. I remember the 76ers under Billy Cunningham. Mark Ivoroni would start games and play 4 minutes in each half, and that's it. I think that's the Duncan Robinson role, is either be great, be effective, or we have someone else. And you know what? Coming in for Duncan Robinson is Max Strus. And if he is the better player on that night, we saw that in previous games also, he gets the minutes on those nights, and that is only fair. You know what? It's almost like Big O. It's almost like a job share. It's like you don't have to pay either of them benefits. They each are working a 20-hour week for you, and whoever's more productive will get the raise into the full-time job. I think that's where it stands. And, that could be the way out of this conundrum for Eric Spoelstra. He doesn't have 9, 10, 11 playoff rotation spots. He doesn't. So you might see more of a job share. If you need X, you go to player X. If you need more of Y, you go to player Y. So what I think you're going to see is this. You're going to see the same starters, the five-man lineup that's worked well no matter what you think of Duncan.
You're right.
Tyler Hero is locked in as your sixth man because he's your sixth-man award winner. Dwayne Dedmon is locked in as your seventh man because he's been very effective in bringing the bulk and the size and the height and the deterrence that maybe Bam doesn't, a little different way than Bam. I think beyond those seven, you might see some job shares. If Victor Oladipo has it going, no issue. Fine, it's him. It's not Gabe Vincent. If Caleb Martin's energy is not needed, maybe you go to Max Strus' shooting or in a different direction there also. So I think we can lock in seven, and then I think it'll be a daily dilemma for Eric Spoelstra to try to figure out those next two spots. A good problem to have, as I posted in my Ask Ira today at sunsentinel.com.
Here's the screwed up part, because when you were saying this, it triggered something in my mind. like you said, well, either you're great or you're not in the first couple of minutes and you're out, right? But here's the screwed up part. There's only one area that he could be great than those guys, and that's shooting.
Right.
But if Spoelstra has to think of who's the better basketball player, oh my God, it's Strus, it's Gabe Vincent, and Caleb Martin. They're all better basketball players than Duncan Robinson. And so they're gonna be better defensively. They're just gonna be better for me overall, facilitators, you name it. And so all of a sudden now, if Duncan's not shooting, like I can't blame Eric Spoelstra if he's looking at his bench going, with these guys, at least even if they don't shoot as well as Duncan, or if they're shooting as bad as Duncan or as mediocre as Duncan, at least I know on the other side of the court they're going to be productive for me. Whereas, Duncan is a loss completely on that other side.
Except
so
I would give you part B of that, and that's the opposing scouting report. And I guarantee you, Big O, at least now, Duncan is far higher on the opposing scouting report than Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, or Caleb Martin. And as long as you're occupying the defense full time, Duncan does that. And if you watch the game, and again, I always tell Heat fans, I know it's hard on television, but if you're at the game at FTX Arena and you have a chance to watch off the ball, there's always a body on Duncan. There isn't always on Strus. There isn't always on Vincent. There isn't always on Martin. That's why he gets in for the offensive rebounds. So as long as Duncan occupies you and occupies the opposing defense, that still matters, and that matters a lot. Now, maybe you're playing a playoff series, and Duncan is off, and in game one against Atlanta, Max Strus goes off for 5 of 8. That's going to change Nate McMillan's scouting report. I agree with that. So maybe in a playoff series, it's a little bit different, where all of a sudden it's not stay on Duncan all the time. It's don't let this Strus guy beat us in game 2. He already beat us in game 1. It is a different dynamic. Everything about the playoffs is different. The playbook will change. The rotation will change. And again, as much as I hate to agree with you every now and then, I'll do it once a week. I'm on 3 times a week. So I'll agree maybe a little bit on the Monday Acura Pembroke Pines report so I can disagree on Friday. Eric Spoelstra has changed his starting lineup in advance of the playoffs 2 or 3 times already. We saw that with Kendrick Nunn versus Goran Dragic, so it certainly is possible. We've seen that with Myers Leonard. So maybe for you and I arguing back and forth these last few weeks, let's wait till April 16th, April 17th, and maybe Eric Spoelstra does say, okay, that was our regular season approach. This is our playoff approach. It's very risky, but you know what? With the kind of stability he has in the franchise, Eric Spoelstra is not afraid to make those kind of judgments.
We're 62 games in. He played 72 and 73 games the last 2 years. Okay? His three-point percentage has gone from 44.6% in 2020 to 40.8 in 2021, and it is now at 36.5 in 2022. What you do have to start asking yourself is, were we in a moment for Duncan Robinson? Because it's 3 straight years of the three-point average going down 4% every single time from 40
and maybe that's because he has gained the respect of the defense. The first year it was, who the hell is this Division III player? Fire away. Year 2 is, this guy might be something. Year 3 is, this is a $90 million guy, and we damn well better guard him. That's part of it. But also, in the last 6 weeks, it's trending in a much better direction. Matter of fact, the only thing I'll say about Duncan Robinson shooting this year versus last year, maybe like 2 years ago with his breakout, is this. It's been too inconsistent. Before, he had always been, one game he might shoot 45% from the 3. The next game he might shoot 38% from the 3. This year he's had scoreless games. He's had 3 scoreless games, I think, in the last 11. That can't happen for any starter, let alone your three-point shooting specialist. It's been the inconsistency, but maybe it's been specific opponents saying, we're not going to let this kid beat us. Again, if Duncan Robinson can maintain 1 and maybe even the intention of 2 defenders, it makes it easier for Butler, it makes it easier for Bam, it makes it easier for Kyle Lowry. So there still is something to be said for that.
At the end of the year, if it ends at 36 or even lower than that, do the Heat have to look around and say, yeah, he's a heck of a shooter when he's uncovered, but he is not good enough to overcome the defense now? Because as you know, and everybody else, we're not breaking news to anybody. When you bust through and you get that contract, you get the attention. And now you got to play that chess game that you're going to have to answer back to them that now they know who the hell you are. And if you're a really good player, like a Tyler Hero, you're going to answer back and you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to beat you shooting. I'm going to beat you passing. I'm going to penetrate and hit it on the in the paint, whatever. Tyler has answered back the defenses that have come at him, and he has figured out a way. This young man, unfortunately, has not been able to counter that chess move. So is that something that is going to be an issue for the Heat at the end of the year if it continues in this trajectory?
Big O, I would put it this way. I think it's going to be an issue for the Heat no matter what Duncan Robinson does, even if he shoots 50% for the rest of the season, for this reason. The Heat have financials to consider in the offseason. It is Tyler Hero's extension offseason. Well, they took care of Bam early, perhaps too early, and hurt themselves in the Antetokounmpo race or free agency. But they did that. So if you do it for Bam, I think it's reasonable that you could also consider having to do it for Tyler, number one.
Oh, yeah.
Two, starting tonight against the Rockets at FTX Arena. If Victor Oladipo is really good, only one NBA team holds his bird rights. He can go to free agency, but it's going to be cap space in a year, or unless you want to go to the stinking Knicks, you're not going to have teams out there with a lot of cap space. So if the Heat want to bring him back and a bird rights contract, which they can, that's two more big contracts you're adding to Lowry, to Butler, and Adebayo. You can only carry so many. You're dealing with that right now with NFL free agency, where $1 impacts the next dollar. So I'm not so sure that Duncan stays regardless. I think the Heat would love him to shoot great. One, because you win now, you win in the playoffs. But two, it keeps the value high. So maybe instead of $18 million Duncan Robinson, you also get two nice little $9 million pieces that you could round out your team as well, especially if Caleb Martin leaves in free agency. You have that also. So you have, you might not want to lose him, but you might lose him. Because again, he's like that Tyler Johnson contract. You can only pay so much for your eighth man, even if you love your eighth man. What I'm saying is this, Big O. There's a lot of moving parts financially, and I think Duncan Robinson has to figure in that overall equation in the offseason, regardless of how he shoots.
All right, I love Caleb Martin, man. I have fallen in love with that kid. I mean, he is Heat. He is a Heat player.
Oh, I agree with that. But I'm going to put this to you. Is he ever really going to wind up higher than your seventh or eighth man? Let's be honest here, O. He probably will not.
I don't know that, but he's gotten better and better.
Adebayo, Lowry, Butler, Oladipo, Hero. You go down the line, eventually you're going to reach.
Let's have some fun with this. I can't expect Butler to be Butler in 2 years. I need somebody to take over for Butler. So I'm going to do my best to keep Caleb Martin because I'm developing a guy that is, all tool-like. Everything. The kid can shoot. The kid can pass.
And I love a jack of all trades, and I love that.
Toughness. So
but again,
I expect Butler to take a secondary role because his body's breaking down before our eyes as we're watching. He's a tough sumbitch. He leaves his heart and soul out there every single night, but he's got a lot of mileage on that body. And in 2 years, maybe I need a Caleb Martin starting and him coming off the bench.
But I don't know that you could afford those first 2 years at that salary for your eighth man, and that's the problem. And I think the Heat very much, with Kyle Lowry at 35, with PJ Tucker at 36, and Jimmy at 32, I think everything is year to year with the Heat. I don't think there is what about 3 years? Because if there was, Big O, they would keep their draft choices. They would have second-round draft choices. I love the Miami Heat burn the boats approaches. This is about this year, and we'll worry about next year, and we'll worry about the year after. That is what made this team, for the most part, a special team. They burned their boats. They burned their first-round picks. They live in the moment, and it's been a hell of a moment this season.
So why don't we have Viking ships being burnt right out there in the bay? It's just to kind of go along with the whole theme.
See, there you go. That's your theme for a Thursday show. So now find a pyrotechnic firm and you're set.
There you go. All right. Wednesday, you can catch Ira again with Clay Ferrara at 9 o'clock with our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show. And then he'll be back on Friday to talk a little Miami Heat with our Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report. What are you working on leading up to tonight's game? And Oladipo,
you know what? I'm going to post Bam Adebayo just spoke about Vic saying we're getting an all-star back. Don't ever forget that. That'll be a little later today at sunsentinel.com. I already posted a story about what I'm calling the Cafecito couple, and that's Tyler Hero and Caleb Martin bringing the caffeine with the second unit. Tyler comes in the middle of a period. Everything changes. Martin comes in at the end of the rotation, and you can see his late game plays, how big of a difference they make when everyone else is tired. This guy's the double calf. He gets out there. He keeps you going. So I think that Cafecito couple we have going there really has done something for the bench. So that's posted already at sunsentinel.com on your doorstep tomorrow. And we'll keep on bringing it. I'm going to put on my Victor Oladipo jersey as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
I think it's 4.
I'm finding a way to unload Duncan Robinson so I make sure I don't lose Caleb Martin and Max Strus, by the way. I don't want to lose Max Strus either. Seriously, I don't want to lose.
What's going to happen right now, folks? I know that Big O is planning to come out to the Vegas Summer League. He's going to be walking around the Thomas and Mack Center saying, hey, anyone interested? It's like the scalper. I got a Duncan Robinson right here. Who wants a Duncan Robinson? So you could sell him off then, Big O.
Riley's been lucky that I haven't hit the road in the NBA. It's only been NFL. Now we're hitting the NBA road, so we're coming after you, Riley. I'm going to track you down in Vegas. Make sure you don't trade Caleb and Strus.
Hey, he shaved his goatee, then you're going to have to shave your goatee. That's another story for another day.
All right, I can shave it. It'll pop up again in 2 days, baby.
Just like Pat.
I am the human chia pet. Right, Sean? Go ahead. Fire away, Sean. I know you're locked and loaded with the chia pet. There you go. So follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Ira will catch you on Wednesday.
Catch you on Wednesday. Thank you, Big O.
There you go. The great Ira Winderman.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.